evening. Our top story this week: some of the undocumented teenagers that are crossing the border without their parents are being treated better than American foster kids, and Hillary Clinton wants to send them all back. In Connecticut, Justina Pelletier gets to spend Father's Day with her family. Then the judge finally rules that she can go home. The father is threatening to sue Massachusetts over the abduction of their daughter. And the Massachusetts child protective industry has been snatching children at much higher rates in the year since a little boy went missing, whose body was later found on the side of the road. In Arizona, grandparents are being left out of the fight to keep families together when the kids are snatched from their homes. In Florida, the child protective industry is in hot water after it is found that at least 30 child death records were unreported while under the department's watch. In California, the Orange County child protective industry is under fire after a local pastor tells county supervisors that numerous families have come forward to share horrific stories about how CPS agents handled their children's cases. And in Maryland, teenagers are being kept in isolation cells at adult prisons for months at a time. In Vermont, the child protective industry is under attack by lawmakers who want CPS agents fired after a new report exposes the real problems within the agency, while the state's DCF commissioner acknowledges communications failures that led to the deaths of children. And one Vermont mother whose child died from natural causes is upset because she's being unfairly linked to the cases where the parents are suspected of killing them. In Colorado, changing marijuana laws is forcing judges and CPS agents to rethink what constitutes child endangerment. In Connecticut, the child protective industry decides to give parents a way to have their names cleared from the child abuse register, which is pissing off a GOP state senator who claims that there is no legislative support for such a rule. In New York, the legislature approves the money for the hiring of 37 new CPS agents to mess with families. And in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a whopping 20% of students are either involved with child welfare or the juvenile justice system. In North Carolina, lawmakers decide to throw $8 million at the child protective industry in an effort to fix their problems. A new report says that Texas CPS agents aren't given enough time to check in on the foster kids on their caseloads. A new study finds that judges who have daughters are more likely to rule for women in divorce and child custody cases. And in Utah, the Mormon Church drops their adoption business since there is a lack of young mothers coming forward to give up their babies. In Canada, a foster father from Halifax, Nova Scotia gets busted with child porn on a USB drive. In Alberta, a former foster parent of the year is on trial for molesting kids, with one of the boys accusing the foster parent of molesting him hundreds of times. And in Montreal, Quebec, an insurance company is canceling the policy on a foster mother because she has more than 2 foster children living in the home. Advocacy groups are trying to get the U.S. State Department to reopen adoptions from Nepal, which have been closed to U.S. citizens since 2010. And in England, the chairman of Britain's inquiry into the forced migrations of thousands of orphans from the UK to Australia is calling for a judicial investigation amid fresh evidence that children were sexually abused in the UK before being sent. In entertainment news this week, actor Will Smith and his wife were cleared by CPS agents after their daughter was photographed on a bed with a shirtless man. And a sex abuse lawsuit against the puppeteer who played Elmo on Sesame Street is dismissed due to the statute of limitations. In Arkansas, a foster father stands accused of raping a boy. In Illinois, a foster mother is suing a group home operator for allowing one of his employees to molest her foster daughter for nearly 2 years. And in Oklahoma, another foster parent was arrested for child sex abuse. In Nevada, the Clark County child protective industry is being sued by a mother whose children suffered harm while in foster care. In California, a kid has a friend over who ends up shooting his foster father. In Kansas, a foster mother was arrested for giving the kids marijuana, with one of the teens saying that she drank bleach to mask the cannabis and provide a clean urine sample. In Arizona, a real mother was arrested for trying to rescue her kids from a foster home. In Missouri, a foster mother pleads guilty to beating her adopted daughter and foster child. In Minnesota, a doctor who was charged with choking his foster child with a plastic glove is back in the state to face charges. And in Connecticut, a hearing on the transgendered foster kid is canceled after they decide to take him out of the adult male prison he's been staying at. In Florida, a judge is set to decide on a case where an NAACP-backed African-American foster mother wants to raise a white child. An agency run by New York Family Court judges loses its tax-exempt status because they failed to comply with federal tax laws. In Tennessee, a couple of foster parents are still trying to get custody of a girl they wanted to adopt, but she is doing fine with her real father. And finally tonight, in New York, a former foster father pleads guilty to pulling 3 permanent teeth from his foster daughter's mouth. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, week. This is Baby LK. Over and out.